They worked all this out. These are the points of flight arrows. As you can see, they vary somewhat. Some are long and almost cylindrical and then taper into a point, and others are more almost onion dome shaped. They come in like that, cupola shape.
Let us just say something about them. Look, that they are not meant for warfare and this and that.
Oh
But
no, you
could you
wouldn't even
please
shoot
tell
them
us
from so
something?
far.
Still, you can kill someone with that if you're hit
Oh
by
look, this is why safety is so important in archery. Um, something like this, if it hit a unprotected person, it would penetrate quite deeply,
that.
depending
Exactly.
on how much energy the bow had. The good side of it is it doesn't have any cutting blades. So that conical shape tends to push blood vessels and tendons and things out of the way. I saw someone shot with not a wooden arrow like this, but with a carbon arrow with the same kind of shape point through their foot. And minimal blood loss. When they went to the hospital, there was no real damage. They just put some antiseptic and stuff and bandaged it all up because bones and tendons and blood vessels were just pushed out of the way because the point, went in like that. However, had it hit a major organ like the heart or the lungs, it would be a whole different matter.
Exactly.
So, safety is always important in
Yes.
archery because it's not that people will do something on purpose. It's things can go wrong. My classic thing I say to people is, imagine I'm out there, I'm at full draw, and I have a heart attack and fall over. That arrow is still going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that wherever the arrow is pointed, there's nobody in the way. These are whistling arrows. The Turks use whistling arrows. We don't know what for. The top one is buffalo horn, the bottom one is ivory, I think. They have a socket at the base of the arrowhead, and the inside of the arrow is hollow. There's one hole, I think, in the ivory one and two holes in the buffalo horn one. These are whistling arrows are so small you could shoot them out of a zipper. And I haven't. Oh, have I? No, I've shot whistling arrows out of a Majra or Navak. I haven't shot one out of a zipper yet. I should try it. It could be good fun. I'll make some arrows the right length and try it out. There's paintings from Ilkhanate, Iran, showing people holding whistling arrows. They must have been common everywhere. These ones are really designed for long distance flight. They probably had a very high pitch, and they were probably just for sport. There's no real practical use for them. I mean, their pitch would be too high to be used for signaling. Okay, one of the bows had two inscriptions on it with dates. And I did my best to translate the dates. I wasn't as good on the names because these are about the size of my little fingernail, these inscriptions. So it's pretty hard to read. You can see in the dates, it's is it 1174?
Yes, 1174, indeed.
Yeah. So these are hijra dates.
Yes.
Uh, and the other end of the same bow has another date,
Yes.
uh, which I read as 1159 because I could see a tail on the last number, but
Mm-hmm.
that may be just a blur. It may be 1155.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I could never be sure.
Yes.
But one is the date the bow is made, and I assume the maker's signature is there. It's usually Amale, whatever the person's name is, um, and Sennet, and the date. But the other one is probably when it was presented to its owner, which
Yeah.
is about 5 or 10 years later, depending on
Yeah,
whether
this
that
one
lasts.
this one is Amale, the work of,
All right.
okay, Sane is the year.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, this is the name Sane, year. Amale. Oh, I need to enlarge in it. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a fairly
If
detailed
you
one.
enlarge in it for me, I can read it at 100%. And
Yeah.
this one, I can read it, yes.
Hmm.
Ahmade, Ahmade, yes. Abdul Razzaq, exactly. I can read it. That's
Yeah.
the owner.
Yeah. So, I know in the description of the bow that they've associated this with a particular bow maker. Yücel's book has got a list of all the bow makers and the years they operated in Istanbul.
Oh,
This is Turk Okçulu, and
very
so
nice.
you can often match the maker
Mhm.
by the name and the date to a particular maker.
Mhm.
And he's got, like, sometimes they have a little biography of the maker, sometimes not. They just say he made bows between these 2 years. But yeah, see, this is a really good thing. On Persian bows too, you find this thing of signing the bows by the maker, and sometimes two inscriptions like this as well.
Yes.
Um, it's my bow has only one inscription, uh, but so this is the belly side of the hand grip of the bow, and that white piece of ivory there is what's called çelik in Turkish.
Chili.
Um, it's where the two strips of horn meet to make a more, this is arguable, to make a smoother transition between the two. They use a saw and they cut a little groove,
Mm.
and then they put a piece of ivory in there, and that becomes the joint. And there's all kinds of symbolic meanings for this in the Turkish archery guilds,
Mm.
because it's uniting the top and the bottom, and there's lots of symbology. You can see also that there's paint on the buffalo horn,
Yeah.
and you can see gilding. The whole of the belly of this bow
Yes.
was painted
Gilding.
and gilded.
Gilding. Gilding. Yeah.
I mean, this is it's a remarkably beautiful bow. Notice also you can see the swelling and contraction. So the arrow pass is always narrower than the rest of the bow.
Oh,
And on most of these bows, it's rarely more than 21 millimeters across, so that the arrow is only minimally deflected. This is the rest of the bow.
mm.
You can actually see through the horn
Yeah.
to some extent. You can see the grooves underneath it. This may have been a semi-transparent horn, but it was painted black, and then it was gilded with flowers and leaves, saz, and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Uh, so, I mean, in a Persian bow, this would be covered in birch bark or leather and painted, but in Turkish bows, most of the time, there is no leather on the belly
Yes.
or birch bark. It's If it's got decoration, it's painted. If it's not, it's just polished and lacquered to give a glassy, smooth surface. That's more common.
Yes. And this one, bleed?
That's the year of the same bow. So this is the bash is, or ayak, depending
Yes.
on which end of the bow it
Yes.
is the part that recurves, and then the triangular section running up, that is the kasan in Turkish.
Yes.
Um, so bash just means head.
Yes.
When it's on the bottom of the bow, they call it ayak. Ayak just means foot. So it's not complicated. This is why Persian and Turkish are really good. I mean, because the names actually mean something.
Yes.
Um, but you can see the black coming up the bash is the leather covering of the sinew.
Yes.
That where the knock for the string is, that's also got leather pushed in and glued over it
Yeah.
to stop wear and tear of the string on the knock. You notice how small this is?
Yes, very.
It's only about that long, a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Um, there is no string bridge because the string sat where that angle finished at the base of the bash. Uh, there are Turkish bows with string bridges. There's one, I think, in Karlsruhe, and I think there's a few in Topkapi. It's not unknown, but generally speaking, they didn't have string bridges. They just had a replaceable strip of leather that could, when it got worn, it
Yes.
could be sanded off and you could just glue another one on. Uh, it's you tend to see string bridges in bows that have more of a curve up from the handle, like a setback handle.
Yes.
It may be more important, or it may be just that different bows require different things.
Yes.
Uh, the Turkish style bow that I've got, the horn and sinew bow made by Adam Karpowitz, has no string bridges. But another bow of his, which is much more reflexed, it does have string bridges. So
Mm.
it's as we'll see later with the Crimean Tartar bow, they nearly always had string bridges. They were like Persian bows in that
Yes.
regard.
And this one, please. Tell us about this one.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just yeah, this is the same bow. This is just the whole bow laid
Ah,
out.
this is the whole bow. Of course, this is the
Yeah.
same bow.
And see what a beautiful reflex it has, how the actual bending part of the limbs, those parts either side of the handle,
Yes.
are fairly straight. Most of the reflex is in what is called the Cassan eye, which is where the triangular section joins the flat section.
Yes.
So that bends a lot because it's thinner. But the last parts of the limbs don't bend at all. Well, millimeters.
Yeah.
They don't bend in a way your eye would pick up when you were watching them. But you would notice on a bow like this at full draw, you could definitely see um, how it concentrated. So it would bend back from the handle, and then
Mm.
those ears would actually kind of go out like that, and then you'd have the tips. So that at full draw on a bow like this,
Mm.
the string would be about to the tip about 80 degrees or so, almost. I mean, as more people of larger stature shot bows, they didn't actually change the bows. So what happened was a bow that was like this for somebody of my size, all of a sudden was like that for somebody who was taller. And sometimes they had to change the angle that they were shooting and everything to be able to shoot the same length arrows. But so these bows, I mean, when you see a lot of reproduction bows, the tips are pointing straight up at full draw and the angles like that. But in these, they're almost like that. It's like that. It's a much more pronounced. The limbs bend a lot more, and you can see when you look at it, um,
Mm.
it's quite a solid bow.
Yes.
I mean, it's quite thick in the bending sections,
This should be a
but
high poundage, huh?
oh yeah, this would be over 90, I think,
Yeah.
maybe 100, 110. It's hard to say. I mean, somebody look, Adam Karpowitz could sit down with calipers, measure it, and then put it into a formula he's worked out, which incidentally he published in his book, so anyone can do it if they really put their minds to it. And he can work out within a few pounds of what the bow would have been.
Yeah.
Um, but they're all heavy. His comment was that a bow under 80 or 90 pounds was for children.
Yes. That's right.
And I mean, this is true of Persian bows. It's true of Manchu bows, of Indian bows. People had heavy bows because they were doing it all the time. Uh, any exercise that you have a regular pattern of, you get stronger. And people shooting bows had training regimens. They shot frequently. I mean, we we probably, if you're an English speaker and you've read about English archery, you hear about them having to practice on Sundays. But they didn't just practice on Sundays.
Mm.
They would practice maybe 2 or 3 days a week if they could. If they were professional archers and had nothing else to do, they would practice as often as they could, because the more you practice, the easier it gets. So, like
Yeah.
if you move gradually up, and if you read the manuals, they talk about increasing the weights of the bows.
Mm.
Now, nobody would buy 5 bows of different weights to shoot. They would become a member of an archery club, or they would have a teacher or whatever, and they would have bows for you to practice on until you got to your full strength, and then you would buy yourself a proper bow.
Mm.
Because I mean, this is the thing. It's very difficult for modern archers to do this, because it's very rare that you will have a club that would have a set of bows for beginners of different weights so they can build their strength up. So you've got to actually work out which bows yourself to use.
Mm.
But in the old days, you went to a master, you became an apprentice, and he supplied that kind of stuff.
And
And
this one
maybe,
here,
yeah.
and this
Oh,
one.
this is wonderful. This is a Crimean Tartar bow, made in Istanbul for the Crimean Tatars. The Crimean Tatars were allied and eventually became incorporated into the Ottoman Empire,
Yeah.
mainly as allies. They still had their own Khan. They were semi-independent. And this is the late development of the Mongol bow,
Yeah.
but built by Turkish bow makers. It has a very set back handle. You can see how curved it is at the handle.
Completely.
The what the Turks would call the Kasan, the triangular ridge section, it's there's a clear angle between it and the bending part of the bow, and the bash, or the head and foot of the seer, or the ear, from the string bridge. You can see these have string bridges, is still at a fairly strong angle. So this bow has a great amount of reflex all through the limbs, whereas the Turkish bows tend to be straight and then have reflex.
Yes.
And by reflex, I mean the curve away from the string when there's no string on it, as opposed to recurve, which is the curve away from the string when the bow is strung. So
Yes.
this has a recurve when it's strung, but at the moment we're just seeing it reflex. Now the arrows, I can say with some degree of certainty that fletching is not correct. I spoke to Edward McEwen, who advised Dr. Grayson on refletching these arrows because the feathers were gone. And I think he used eagle feathers or something like that. And they were relying on a comment in Arab archery about feathers with marten wing profile, which they took as trailing edges. So these fletchings are closer to Japanese fletchings than they are to a regular Tartar or Turkish fletching. The thing is, they only realized it years later, because when they did this, there were no well-known fletched Tartar arrows. But now there's several collections in Germany that have them, and there are several in Turkey as well, and in Russia and Poland, actually. So now they know what the real shape of those feathers were, and it was more an even curve rather than this trailing edge. But everything else is authentic. The points, the paint on the arrows, and all that kind of stuff. But you see, these are very long arrows.
Yeah.
They're
Very.
about 84 to 85 centimeters long.
Yeah.
So they're at least 20 centimeters longer than, say, things like flight arrows.
Yes.
And they're about 10 centimeters that's roughly 4 inches in imperial measurement, longer than Turkish target arrows. So these are big arrows. These are for a long draw. This is the string bridge, which is made out of a piece of ivory. You can see there's no groove for the string. It's just a gentle curve because the string knot sat there.
Yeah.
The same as in Persian bows and whatever. So the modern strings just have a loop, but old strings had a knot, and that knot sat on the string bridge. But yeah, this is a close-up of the points. You can see that the points are thickened. You see this in daggers,
Yes.
but they've got edges as well. So they both pierce and cut.
Good.
They are tanged, and almost certainly the painting follows the sinew wrapping, and the tangs are probably almost as long as that painted area to make very, very strong arrows.
Yes.
Um,
You mean
but
that
these,
much, right? Here.
yeah, yeah. So it's possible that they're only half that long, but uh, see, the big problem with wooden arrows is to get a very straight hole.
Yeah.
But we're talking about um, people who were really, really skilled.
Yes.
So
They really
you
are.
see the width of the point is 1.9 centimeters, roughly 3/4 of an inch.
Yes.
Uh, it's narrow for a hunting head, but it's very effective when you're shooting against people. Of course, we're a bit softer. Not quite so tough as wild animals. Uh, yeah, these are beautifully made. When
Very.
I saw them up close, I was really impressed by how uniform they were. So these are all handmade; they're all hammered out by a blacksmith, but they're very uniform. There's even a slight concavity to the edge.
Yes.
Here comes one of the most beautiful bows I've ever seen. Um, this is a regular horn and sinew bow with a leather covered back and grip. However, it's got two pieces of ivory, one at each tip.
Yeah.
So they've split the tip and glued in a section of ivory and then carved the nock into that. Now that increases the weight of the tips a lot,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't do in a flight bow or a war bow because you want to get maximum distance. But in a target bow, maybe it increased the stability. It certainly would add to the hand shock, which is not a pleasant thing, but technique could get rid of that with this type of bow. Uh,
Mm.
there's measurements there along the belly, 120 centimeters.
Yeah.
These are not long bows.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and in the hand, it is heavier than the other bows, but have a look at the decoration.
It's unbelievable.
It is so
100%.
beautiful. You can see also the tapered shape of the ivory insert in the tip, but see the Kasan has a different painting on it to the bending part of the limb, and the grip also is shaped
Yes.
to kind of show this up. This is as a person who really likes bows, this is peak design levels. This is
Unbelievable.
beautiful stuff. This is the side. You can see how much
Mm.
it reflexes.
Yes.
The the majority of the reflex is in that last section of the bending section coming up to the triangular Kassan section.
Yes.
Um, this is classic. And also see the grip shape. This is the most comfortable. Well, if you're doing the style of shooting that we do, Turkish, Persian, Northern Indian, this is the most comfortable
Yeah.
way to shape the bow. Now, just this, I put these arrows in. These are part of the Grayson collection as well. These are Indo-Persian. They're reed shafts with ivory and buffalo horn or ebony inserted nocks. But why I put them in was to show the difference between Turkish nocks and other Oriental nocks. You can
Yes.
see these are quite wide. The bowstrings were usually 4 to 5 millimeters thick, whereas Turkish ones were usually 3 millimeters thick.
Yes.
Um, they're very decorative, but they don't wrap around the string or anything like the Turkish ones.
Yes. True.
And mostly Persian and Indian arrows, and by Indian I mean the whole subcontinent, so Pakistan and India in modern terms, and Bangladesh.
Yes.
Um, they generally the the knock just fits around the string. The string doesn't go deep into the knock like it does in a Turkish string.
Yes.
It's just fitting round because the knock is usually only a little bit deeper than it is wide.
Yes. Beautiful.
And you can see, oh, they're beautifully painted. I mean, this is archery, if people like painting things really finely, take up take up decorating arrows. It's a great thing. So now we come to the sippers. Bilek siperi, wrist shield,
Yeah.
it translates as.
Yes.
These were worn on the hand, and there is a photograph of me wearing a glove wearing one of these. Um, the This is separated. So the part on the left is called the tabla, and this slotted into a groove in the part on the right, and it was to protect you if the arrow fell off
Yeah.
while you were shooting.
That's right.
This one they say is made in 3 layers. So the middle layer is rawhide.
Mhm.
The top layer, as you can see, is shark skin, and
Yeah.
the bottom layer, as you saw before, was red dye. They say red dyed cloth. I think I thought it was red dyed leather. It's got a braided border which is stitched through the whole thing all the way around.
Yeah.
The groove is buffalo horn. Uh,
Yes.
it is in Turkish. It's called oluk, the groove.
Yeah.
You can see a little buckle to one side, the strap to the other
Yes.
side, and you can see my drawing underneath because I made measured drawings of all of these when I was there for the purposes of reproduction,
Yes.
for shooting. I have got the shark skin. Well, actually, I've got ray skin, but I haven't made a shark skin one yet. It's really hard to cut. But that's what it would have looked like when you put it on. You can take the tablet off and still shoot with it.
Yeah.
And if you're very confident of your shooting and you're in full control of the bow, that's fine. It doesn't make it any better to have it off.
Mhm.
It's just slightly less safe.
Mhm.
That is a bit of a blurry shot from the side showing the groove that the tabla slides into.
Yeah.
You can see the leather there. You might notice if you see modern reproduction sippers, they often have very thick leather.
No.
But the Mustafa Khani said it should be thin and it should mold to your hand very well. I think what happened was that they looked at really expensive ones in museums with gold inlaid thread and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and they were much thicker because they were probably just for show. Whereas
Just.
these ones were definitely for use, and they show traces of that use. Um, the underside, you can see the little strap
Yeah.
that goes around this part of the hand. This is the tasma.
That's my.
Um, and
Yeah.
these that whole leather piece is meant to wrap around this part of your hand. I can show you one. This is from the back, so you can see where the groove is. You can see the shape, how it fits on the hand.
Yeah.
Um, it's nowhere near as built up as modern ones. These are almost flat with a very shallow groove in them. That one's
True.
got a bit of a crack. You can see at some stage putting the tablet in crack the wood. But I mean, it's 100, 150, 200 years old, so that's acceptable.
Yeah.
And this is on the hand, showing how it fits on the hand. Now you notice in this one, the strap, it goes under this part of the hand. In
Yeah.
this one, it's actually sewn on.
Yeah.
Normally, you tie them on so you can adjust them if your hand has changed shape. But this was for somebody and it fitted them perfectly. You can see very clearly the groove.
Yes.
Now here, that kind of reddish color,
Yeah.
the remains of a very fine red leather cover that
Yeah.
was glued onto the groove because
Yeah.
in Mustafa Khani, they say, he says that whenever you shot a bone or ivory point or an iron point, you always had this. They called it maska after the glue they used. It was kind of, they had a hide glue on it and they licked it and stuck it down. It stuck like a post-it note kind of thing. And this was to stop the horn from being damaged.
Yeah.
You can see it's not worn evenly because
No.
the arrow didn't go straight up and down. It kind of would curve around a bit and wear it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very straightforward. They're not terribly hard to make once you realize how they fit together. That
Yes.
one you can see that the groove is fairly even.
Yes.
Uh, it's parallel sided almost. The floor of the groove is at a very slight curve like that. So when you pull the point back as you adjust the angle, the tip of the arrow is always clear. It's not going up, it's not going down. so it launches very evenly. Here is another one.
Another
This one
one.
has a number of features. It has a tortoise shell covered tabla. It
Yeah.
has a groove that widens towards the back.
Yes.
The buckle is fairly unique. It's got a special slot in it to take the strap, and the actual strap has been repaired twice.
Yes.
So this has had a long working life.
Yes.
You also notice that if you look at the way the groove is, it points basically off to your right. So the tail of the groove points to the left. So when you hold it, you turn and twist your hand, you
Yeah.
get that it runs pretty much straight back to where you are at full draw.
It's unbelievable. Here, exactly.
How that fits into the groove.
Yes. Fixing.
It's very, very straightforward. I mean, the fact that they come apart like that's amazing. Uh,
It is.
I don't know whether they had different tablas for, how important it is. This is without the tabla at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see again that the groove is offset, so it starts at the left and moves towards the right. It's not mounted straight on. Dr. Grayson made a copy of one of these, which is almost identical. He used ivory
Yeah.
groove and everything like that, but he made it perfectly symmetrical
Mm.
because he was left-handed,
Mm.
and it made it easier for him to
Yeah.
do it that way and make it. If he made it symmetrical, it looked exactly like a real one, except for that it didn't have that thing. And he had a lot of control in his bow hand, but of course it made life very difficult for the rest of us. Here we have the underside of the tabla, which you can see they've just used a piece of parchment that is part of a document. Uh, I thought it might have been a land deed. It's in Ottoman Turkish, and there's measurements. The curators at the museum thought it might have been out of a textbook, maybe that a maths textbook or something like that, and that's why it had measurements in it. Um, but you can see the little holes drilled through so that they could stitch
I
that.
can read it here for you. Kanun Saniye Rumi. Rumi is Ottoman, also used
Yeah.
in Persian. So it is the second association of the Ottomans. Ottoman second association or club.
Uh-huh.
And then, oh, I need better picture. It's too small for me to read.
You should be able to, from the original picture, you should be able to enlarge it quite a bit.
Yes, but I don't want to get out here, Bede.
Yeah,
Can
yeah, no. We'll do this at another time.
we
But
do it
as you can
another
see, they just reused it. It was perfectly
time?
acceptable. Um,
Oh, it says Nosche C. I can also read that, volume 30. But then in front of it's written volume 30, but it's a number 20. Then, oh, this is Turkish. I cannot read that.
mm,
Usakçı. No, I can't read that. That's Turkish.
mm. But see, I mean, the advantage, the bits you can read is because Ottoman Turkish had a lot of Persian words in it.
Yes, it does. Yes.
It was, it's like French and English. It was considered.
Yes.
You
Do you?
sounded more educated if you
Yeah.
had Persian words in your vocabulary, and you sounded more precise if you had Arabic words because legal and religious stuff was in Arabic, literature was in Persian,
Yes.
and everyday speech and firmans were in Turkish. So you
Yes.
had this rich mix. I mean, one of the reasons that Ataturk wanted to re-establish Turkish names for things when he founded the Republic was because so many common words in Turkish were actually Persian or Arabic.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get back to a purer Turkish style.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of old Turkish words that they could recover and use, and other ones where they combined two old Turkish words to make the same concept as a more modern word, because they also had French words and English words in Ottoman Turkish too, and they just wanted to get back to a more uniform Turkish language, which was easier to learn,
Yes.
because when in Ottoman times, if 10 to 15% of people could read and write, And that's a guess by me. That's not an official thing. Somebody that knows could correct that. But by after the 20s, the literacy rate in Turkey just shot straight up. It made a huge difference. Now here you can see how the strap has been repaired.
Yes.
And in fact, you can see the strap and the part that holds the buckle have just been sewn on to the
Yes.
Tasman. They're not integral with it. They've just sewn them on.
Yes.
And that might be because the original ones have worn out and they've replaced them,
Yes.
or it might be because that's how they made it. But the joint in the middle of the strap
Mm.
um, is definitely a repair.
Yeah.
You can see also, you can see the braiding has come away from the edge. So that braiding used to cover the edge
Yeah.
and protect the layers of material there. Um,
Yes.
but really quite a beautiful thing.
Okay, Bede, thank you very much. It was very informative, very beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see those things. It's nice to know that people can go and visit them too, because I know a lot of people in the archery community that are interested in traditional archery that would love to be able to see these things
Yeah,
up close.
absolutely.
And I mean, it's all very well. You can go to Tehran and see the beautiful things in the museums there, and we can go to Topkapi Sarai and see the beautiful stuff there. But if you if you arranged with the Department of Anthropology to visit this collection
Yes,
and bring a pair of white gloves and a micrometer, they will help you to measure them,
that's true.
and you can then go home and make yourself a reproduction and test them out.
Yes,
I mean, the museums want you to learn from their collections.
yes,
In the old days, things like cabinets of curiosity were to show off to your rich friends what good taste you had in collecting stuff. But museums, modern museums, are educational,
yes,
and obviously they've got to protect their collections from being damaged,
yeah,
so they don't just let anyone play with them, but they do let you look at them, and you can learn a lot from that.
mm,
Um, when I was visiting the museum regularly, it was when they were writing the catalogue of the collection. And that's why you see my name in there occasionally for my translations, which aren't very good, but at least I got part of the way through it. And so, we went through a lot of this stuff to work out what was going on. And the collection is so amazingly disparate because Grayson put together things like buffalo horn and sinew and that to show you what stuff was made out of. And potentially, if something had to be restored, you had original material. And he had one thing, he was very interested in Inuit
mm,
bows from the Arctic. And he found somebody, uh, I think it was in Alaska, it could have been northern Canada, I'm not sure, who sold him an enormous roll of braided sinew rope that, like, a cord, it was not a rope, which is what they used in making the backing on those amazing Inuit bows. And that's in the museum. So if you wanted to sit down and make 20 or 30 meters of this stuff, there's an example for you to see how it's done. Uh, and so, like, this is why I think it's such a good collection, because it allows you,
mm,
you may be absolutely, well, I know people who are absolutely fascinated by modern flight bows, and there's a whole history of them there from the beginning of the
yes,
20th century.
yes,
Um, and that's the thing is, when I was photographing the bows, actually, because I've got other photographs. Um, there are bows there made by Harry Drake, who was the very famous modern light bow
yes,
builder in the 70s and 80s, earlier than that too. And he decided at one stage he was going to make Turkish bows.
yes.
And if they didn't have labels on them,
Mm.
you wouldn't be able to tell them from the real ones.
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you.
And they were good. They apparently shot extremely well.
Yes.
But this is the thing. And I mean, like I've got bows by Adam Carpowitz, who was a modern maker, and I know, Copper Dreyer
Mhm.
and various other people, Jan Yoha in Taiwan, who are making modern composite bows,
Yes.
and they are getting there. They're making bows now. People, Ivar Malda in Norway, are making bows that are performing as good as the originals.
Yes, absolutely.
And 100 years ago, nobody thought we'd ever be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's because people have access to museums, they can measure things, they can study things, and some of them are just brilliant craftsmen. Some of them are inventors in the sense that they can reinvent things from limited skills. So it's pretty impressive. I'm very impressed by modern bow makers.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Bede, for